Hi, this is Danny from DannysDesigns.com, and in today's tutorial I want to show you how to make this wreath using the Wondrous Wreath stamp set and the Wonderful Wreath dies that coordinate together. Now this is one of our photopolymer stamp sets, and as you can see there's 3 different pieces that make up the wreath. Each one of these pieces had a little extra tab right here. And these are really important to help make sure that you line up the wreath correctly. So to start with, we're going to use this big wreath right here that has the most leaves on it. Go ahead and peel off your backing. And as you can see, I've added a little black mark right here with a permanent marker just to mark where that tab goes on my sheet. You don't have to do it. It's just something that I did because I like to have my stamps lined up when I put the sheet back on. So gently peel this off the acetate. And the way I do it is I set it down and then I mount it to my my acrylic block. Now when I stamp this set, I like to have the tab over here in this bottom corner. So I'll set it on there like that and gently press it onto the block. As you can see, it's really sticky, and so you won't have any trouble having that adhere to your acrylic block. For this one, I'm going to start with garden green ink. And I'm going to be stamping on some Whisper White cardstock. Now just like I've done with the acrylic block, I like to have that tab down in the bottom left corner. I'm going to do Stamp It over here in the bottom left corner of my Whisper White cardstock as well, just to help me line it up. So I'm going to take this image that has the most leaves on it, ink it up, and the beautiful thing about it being acrylic is that it's see-through and you can see if you're missing ink anywhere. Now for this one, you want to stamp it off once onto just scratch piece of paper, and then stamp it on your Whisper White cardstock. Again, that tab is over in the bottom left corner. Okay, and it just gives it a little bit of a lighter green. As you can see, a little bit of ink got here on my cardstock. That's from the little extra tab that we used to line up the image. Don't worry about that, it's going to be cut off once we use the coordinating dies. So the next image that we're going to work with is the one that has fewer leaves on it. Again, set that down on your paper. Take your acrylic block and line that little extra tab up in the bottom left corner. Now on this image we stamped it off once, and on this image we're going to ink it up and stamp it directly onto the paper. Ink it up, bring it over and line it up. Again, we're going to line up this tab where that tab was, and you can see that it will sit right in place, and these leaves on this image will stamp directly on top of these leaves. The image will line up perfectly. Line up those images and stamp it directly down. And as you can see, it made some of the leaves darker, which is why I wanted to stamp this first image off to make those lighter, and then you have a nice highlight of the darker leaves. Clean up my stamp, and then these just easily peel off. Do it slowly and gently, you don't want to stretch it too much. And adhere it back down to the sheet it came on. Now the final image of this set that makes up the wreath are these little berries. Again, set the image down, and we're going to line it up on the block. The tab in the bottom left corner. Now as you can see, I've used this stamp set before. This one is a little bit stained because I've used it in red ink. Photopolymer stamps are going to get stained. They still work. They'll still stamp beautiful images. You don't need to worry about it. It's just certain colors tend to stain the photopolymer. Okay, now we've got our real red pad. Okay, now let me show you what I'm going to do. With the tab being in the bottom left corner, you see that there's 3 little dots at 6 o'clock and 3 little dots at 12 o'clock on the stamped image. And if you look at our wreath, here's one that I've already done. When you stamp it, it's going to look just like this. You want to put those 3 little berries in the middle of these 3 leaves. And at 12 o'clock, there's still 3 leaves right there, and the 3 little berries fit right in the middle. That's how I like to line mine up. You can do it however you'd like, but for me, I think that looks really nice to have those berries lining up. So I'm going to ink it up, bring it over, tabs in the bottom left, and I'm going to line up these berries at 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock on the image. Put those there. Have to rotate it maybe just slightly. Like I say, there's no real wrong way to stamp this. If the berries are off a little bit one way or the other, it's still going to look nice. Okay, and now comes the die set. So for this, it's really important that you use your magnetic platform. If you don't have one, you can use some removable tape to hold it in place, but I really like using the magnetic platform to make sure that my dies stay where I put them. Okay, I'm gonna have to, let me rotate it this way so I can show you how to line those up. Now there's 2 dies that come in the set. It's these 2 right here to help cut out the wreath. One is for the outside of the wreath and one is for the inside. Just like the stamp set, the dies have a little tab, and you're gonna put that in the same place where the tab was on your stamped images. Line those up. You can see that the leaves are lined up beautifully inside there. And this is a very specific image. If you rotate it a little bit, you're not going to get it to line up no matter how hard you try. You've got to use that tab. Right there. The center has the same tab. You're going to make sure that those 2 are pointed in the same direction. And it fits beautifully right there. Okay, add my top plate. And I'm going to run it through the Big Shot. Here's my image. Put out the cardstock. Middle comes right out, and you have a beautiful wreath that you didn't have to cut out by hand. Now I'd like to show you how I cut out the word joy. Again, you're going to need your magnetic platform and your plate on top of there. I used real red cardstock, and then between the die and the cardstock I laid a piece of wax paper. Put the die on, top plate, and run it through the Big Shot. As you can see, when you do that and you pop it out, it's much easier to get this cardstock out of your die if you use the wax paper. It helps it pop right out. This paper is very thin and delicate, so just gently peel it out, and then the wax paper comes right off the top. If you don't use wax paper, it can get stuck a little bit in the die. It does have holes in it, as you can see. You just take something thin and poke it through there to try to help get your cardstock out. But I found the easiest way to do it is just to use a piece of wax paper. Works beautifully every time. I finished it off by stamping the wreath and using the coordinating die to cut that out. Or another option, if you'd like, is you could use the real red cotton ribbon just to add a bow at the top. Hope you found this tutorial helpful. I'll see you next time. Bye.